spend about 6 years of our lives, on average, just dreaming. We're totally immersed in these worlds that our own minds create. Sometimes they're amazing, sometimes they're completely bizarre, and sometimes, yeah, they're downright terrifying. But what are they, really? You know that feeling, right? You jolt awake, your heart's pounding because you are being chased, or maybe you're just completely confused because you were having a serious chat with a squirrel who was, for some reason, serving you tea. It always leaves you with that one big question: why? Well, today, let's play detective. We're going to follow the clues and really dig into the leading scientific theories that try to explain the purpose behind our brain's wild nightly movies. Okay, so our investigation starts right here. The first big clue suggests that dreaming isn't just a bunch of random chaos. No, it's more like essential nightly maintenance. Think of it as your mind's own internal workshop. So this first big theory is that dreams are basically an overnight therapy session. The whole idea is that our brains use the dream state to process all the intense emotions we felt during the day, but in a totally safe environment. So how does that work? Well, imagine you have a really stressful day at work. That night, your dream might not replay the exact event, but it'll replay the feeling of that stress. By doing this in a safe, simulated space, it helps to kind of detach that heavy emotional baggage from the actual memory. It literally helps take the sting out of it. But it's not just about therapy. The next clue suggests our brain becomes this super efficient filing clerk while we sleep. This is what's known as the memory consolidation theory. I mean, we're just bombarded with information all day long, and our brain's got to have a system to sort through all of it. So while you're fast asleep, your brain gets to work. It's sifting through everything that happened, deciding what's important enough to keep and move into long-term storage. And all the other stuff, the irrelevant details, that's the junk mail that gets cleared out. From this point of view, dreams are just the background noise of this massive sorting process. Okay, but what about those moments? You know, when you wake up and suddenly have this brilliant idea? Well, that brings us to theory number 3, creative problem solving. You see, when we dream, the logical, rigid part of our brain kind of takes a back seat. This lets our mind make all these weird and wonderful connections it would never, ever make when we're awake. This is what frees your brain up to think way outside the box. It's connecting dots you didn't even know were there. And that is why you can go to bed completely stumped on some problem and then wake up with the solution just sitting there, plain as day. Your brain was working on it all night. So we've talked about dreams processing the past, but what if dreaming is actually about preparing for the future? This next theory suggests our dreams are like a primal survival simulator. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails the idea perfectly. This is called the threat simulation theory, and the basic idea is that our dreams are like a biological defense mechanism, a kind of virtual reality training ground for our brain to practice for the worst. Just think about the most common anxiety dreams we all have: being chased, falling from a huge height, failing that big test. According to this theory, these aren't just random fears. They're your brain running simulations. It's rehearsing your fight or flight responses. So if you ever face a similar threat in the real world, you're just a little bit more prepared. So we have theories about therapy and filing and survival training. That's a lot. But what if dreams don't actually have a purpose at all? What if they're just an accident? This brings us to a major plot twist in our investigation. And this really splits things into two opposing camps. In one corner, you've got all the theories we've just talked about. The dreams are purposeful. But in the other corner, you have this really compelling idea. The dreams are simply an accidental byproduct of your brain doing its nightly thing. This is the guts of what's called the activation synthesis model. It basically suggests that while you're sleeping, parts of your brainstem are just firing off random electrical signals, just a bunch of neural static. Your conscious mind, which is always trying to make sense of everything, intercepts this noise and does its absolute best to weave it all into a coherent story. And the result? Those strange, surreal, and totally illogical movies we call dreams. Okay, so let's recap the evidence. We have dreams as a therapist, a file clerk, a flight simulator, or just plain static. So where does that leave us? How do we crack this code? Well, the final verdict from most scientists is that it's probably not an either-or kind of deal. Dreaming is an incredibly complex process, and it's most likely serving multiple functions all at once. So, in a single night, your dream could be processing emotions, consolidating memories, and running threat simulations. And that really leaves us with a final thought. The next time you wake up from a particularly vivid dream, instead of just shrugging it off, ask yourself, what kind of work was my brain doing last night? Was it being a therapist, a trainer, a problem solver, or was it just telling itself a really fantastic story? The answer might just be yes.